fighting over his estate. And you know that if there was no will, there are going to be such instances where people are fighting over what is due to them. More especially if there was no will, and the executors and that have been nominated and so forth. So yes, that was Prince, and he was one of my favorite artists of all time. I know that when I was introduced to music, to pop, he was always being, put against Michael Jackson. They were always, there was always a rivalry there. If you do recall, if you did watch how the We Are the World, album or song was created. That particular night, I think it was American Awards, and it was Prince that had won, so many awards that Michael Jackson was also, was nominated for. So you know how the music industry is. They always pit, artists against each other, especially if, there's so much popularity, behind them. And then now going into the stories that made news during the course of the week. So the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority has recalled two batches of Benylin pediatric syrup. The affected products come from batches 329303 and 329304. The authority received a report from a Nigerian health regulator after high levels of diethylene glycol were detected in a batch of the syrup. Investigations between SAPRA and Kenvue, formerly known as Johnson& and Johnson, found that the affected batches have been distributed to South Africa, Eswatini, Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, and Nigeria. So, as someone that always has pediatric medicines in my cupboard, yes, we have to be aware of this particular batch that has been highlighted here. And for those who don't know who Kenvue is, it's Johnson and Johnson. I remember I was driving there by what is that area, Kanene, where okay, the Summer Pride area, but there's a word for that particular area where all Johnson and Johnson is. And I saw that Johnson and Johnson is no longer Johnson and Johnson. Obviously, the building is branded, so it had this Kenvue. So I was like, okay, they've probably rebranded and they've been bought by another, pharmaceutical company, or they've come up with a new name. But for us who grew up knowing Johnson and Johnson, will always say Johnson and Johnson. And then the eThekwini municipality needs billions of rands to upgrade its failing infrastructure in order to resolve the many problems plaguing the metro. This is according to Mayor Mxolisi Kawunda. He estimates that eThekwini will need around 130 billion rands to achieve this. He was speaking during a visit to water facilities accompanied by the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile. So eThekwini has infrastructure problems. I was there about a month ago, and I was saying to my friend that, I commend KZN for the infrastructure that they are busy with. Obviously, whenever there's, where infrastructure is concerned, there has to be maintenance, there has to be upgrades. And, you see that they are making inroads there. Um, I remember when they were still busy with the flyaways there on the freeways, I would get so lost. There were no signs, there was nothing. I remember the one time I passed the on ramp to the airport. And then I saw myself on the road that was going to intersect, I think, to Nanda or somewhere. But luckily, I had to have a taxi driver mentality in order to get towards where the 10 was to the, to the airport. So, I must commend. I'm not sure how much infrastructure that they are busy with or they want to upgrade and maintain, but you can see that there is work being done. And then the state says two of the accused in the corruption, fraud, and racketeering case involving the university of Forte could pose a threat to the lives of key witnesses. The case's lead investigator alleges that security boss Anwar Khan attempted to evade arrest when police were looking for him over the Easter weekend. The Dimbaza Magistrates Court in the Eastern Cape also heard how co-accused Terence Jobert, a former senior member of the NPA, was reluctant to give the police the PIN number of a cell phone that could be used as evidence against him. Interesting. If you recall, one of the Hawks' former spokespersons was also involved in, I think, is it that National Lotteries, saga? But I don't know why, people from esteemed, state agencies have a way of finding themselves, just being on the other side of the law. But I just hope that, it's something that, others could take into cognizance so that you don't bring the name of your institution into disrepute. And Police Minister Bheki Cele is taking his crime-fighting mission to Soweto. He's set to meet Izinduna following his visit to Vanderbijl Park on Friday. The meetings are part of ongoing efforts to flush out criminality in Gauteng communities and improve working relations with residents. And hundreds of SASCO members marched to the offices of the Higher Education and Training Department. They did this to voice their displeasure at the delay in the payment of allowances, a matter acknowledged by NSFAS earlier this week. On Thursday, Minister Blade Nzimande placed the embattled financial aid scheme under administration as the student funding controversy continues. I think we did touch on this last week, with issues that are plaguing NSFAS. I'm not sure how they vet people that become part of NSFAS, where people are going to be inconvenienced, especially students. Students, they rely so much on their allowances. And even besides the allowance that they get, to buy, the bare minimum that they need, more especially when it comes to textbooks and other forms of material that they need for their studies. I don't know what happens when people start doing things that contravene such policies, whereby you don't want to release funding, or there's a delay, or there's something, that is not, that is irregular. But I'm hoping that the minister does come to a decision and somehow there's inroads in order to resolve this NSFAS issue. So after a week of court battles, it's back to the campaign trail for former President Jacob Zuma and his Umkhonto weSizwe party. The party will host a rally in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro in the Eastern Cape. This week, Zuma won his case against the IEC. He challenged the Electoral Commission's decision to have him removed from its list of candidates eligible to contest the polls. So they are campaigning all over the province, all over the country. And unfortunately, there's nothing we can do when, political parties want to go from province to province. It's their, party right to do so. And everyone else is doing it. So, I don't really think there is anything that anyone can do to stop, party campaigning. So I think this one, everyone is doing it, so we can't say a particular, political party can't go to East London or can't go to wherever, that they want to. If that's where they feel that they can get supporters, why not, go ahead, All that matters is on voter day, who are you actually going to vote for? It's up to the individual, who they prefer to be, their political party of choice. So the new Ekurhuleni mayor, Nkosindiphihle Xhakaza, says he's getting straight to work. Xhakaza says his number one priority is service delivery. As we know, that Ekurhuleni has been plagued with instability for a while, and the think 2 weeks ago, the previous mayor was voted out in a vote of no confidence. So hopefully, the current mayor can make inroads and, right the wrongs that have been happening there. And moving right along, so Unandipa Makudumana's legal team is threatening legal action against the Department of Correctional Services. That is, if they are not furnished with a report of an alleged assault on Makudumana by the end of April. Makudumana's legal team is accusing the Department of Correctional Services of a cover up and believes that she's being treated unfairly. Okay, and that one I will not comment. Things happen in prison. People, yeah, things happen. So with this one, I think I'll just leave it there. So the remains of the 6 victims of the horrific Easter bus crash have been handed over to their families. They are the only positively identified bodies of the tragedy that claimed 45 lives. The ZCC congregants were on their way to Moria when their bus plunged off a bridge. A resulting fire left most of the bodies burnt beyond recognition. And then, e-tolls may be scrapped, but the government says they must still pay. Also, basically, motorists must still pay their historic debt. Transport Minister Cindy Siwe Chikunga says the user pay policy remains in place. The system has been scrapped, but the gantries will stay switched on. A new self-care vending machines launched this past week. Is the country's first self-care wellness vending machine, which was launched in the Eastern Cape to curb teenage pregnancies. The machines are stocked with contraceptives and HIV preventative tools and will be strategically placed in high-traffic public areas across South Africa. Deputy Minister of Health Dr. Sibongiseni Dlomo unveiled this initiative on Wednesday along with Eastern Cape Health MEC Namakhosazana Meth. If you didn't tune into our program last week, we did have the MEC for Health, and it is one of the initiatives that that they are celebrating. That there's youth. For some reason now I'm forgetting the name, but basically there's spaces that have been designated for youth, whereby they can go and if they have, it's like they've got counselors there, they've got these vending machines there, and if they need medication, they just go to that particular designated area for the youth, whereby they don't have to to be dealing with other members of the society that are not their age, whereby they will feel judged. So the MEC did, explain in detail that, in order to prevent certain, elements that are affecting, the youth health-wise, those are some of the preventative measures that they had come up with. So now it has been launched, and I hope our youth are taking those initiatives seriously. We know that the number of teenage pregnancies in the province, has been quite high, and it had increased from in the past year when the stats were released last year. So I hope that they don't shy away from those, and they know what is best for them. So the Eastern Cape's longest-serving politician is retiring. DAMPL Bovis Stevenson had been serving the provincial legislature for 25 years, which is quite a number of years. So may he enjoy his retirement, away from politics. Obviously, it's like if you're a doctor, you'll always be a doctor. So if you're a politician, you'll always be a politician. You'll always be vocal, but, on certain things. But when you've been serving and you feel that, it's your time to, for yourself to enjoy your, your retirement, why not? And then Enyobeni Tavern owners were a no-show at the inquest into the deaths of 21 teens. at their outlet. This has forced yet another delay, with the matter now postponed to the 10th of May. Proceedings at the Mdantsane Magistrates Court were meant to get underway on Monday. Their lawyer told the court they had received the summons too late. The inquest is looking into who is criminally liable for the deaths of those youths that took place in June 2022 in East London. And the former National Assembly Speaker, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, has handed in her passport. She handed it in during the course of the past week, and it's part of her bail conditions after she was charged with fraud, corruption, and money laundering for allegedly accepting bribes worth millions of rands while she was defense minister. Mapisa-Nqakula also knows the witnesses who will testify against her when her case continues in June. Okay. That is quite, that's quite a lot. That's quite a lot. And moving further afield. So Israel has warned yesterday that Iran would suffer the consequences for choosing to escalate the situation any further as fears grew of wider conflict more than 6 months into the Israel's war against Hamas militants in the Gaza Strip. The strong warning came after Iran seized a container ship linked to Israel in the Gulf, and the United States announced it was sending more troops to the troubled region. The White House has repeatedly warned Tehran against carrying out a potential imminent attack on Israel in response to a strike on an Iranian diplomatic building in Damascus earlier this month. As we thought that we have had enough, and we've been following the Israel-Hamas war. Now Iran is also starting its own war with Israel. And I picked up on this story. I woke up in the middle of the night yesterday, and I was just going through some statuses, and I saw, some of my friends were putting up, the story that drones were flying over Israel from Iran. So I don't know if we're in an era of wars. There's just something that is off. We can't have too many wars at the same time. I don't know. Maybe it's just we're in an era of war and we are just not equipped to absorb, the era that we're in. And then lastly, Donald Trump became the first U.S. ex-president to go on a criminal trial, pushing the nation's legal and electoral systems to the limit less than 7 months before Americans decide whether to return the scandal-plagued Republican to the White House. Trump is accused of falsifying business records in a scheme to cover up an alleged sexual encounter with porn star Stormy Daniels so as not to doom his 2016 election. Trump is diehard, Shem. He's a diehard. Akafuna uphuma politics. And you know what? I think there are more people similar to him that will hang on to politics and they will want to lead regardless of the scandals that they had to cover up and the scandals that were witnessed. So I think it is the nature maybe of politics. I don't know, but nonetheless, it is happening. And another story. So with regards to MK winning, the fight, the court over the candidacy of Zuma. So the president said he does not regret granting former President Zuma remission in the wake of the Mkondo Party taking the Electoral Commission to court over his candidacy in the upcoming elections. I think there's just things that you must just let them run its course and not fight over, because at the end of the day, if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen whether we like it or not. So that is my take on it. And that was the wrap up of the current affairs. I am going to play a triple play for you guys, and then we're going to go into some entertainment news. And here, what has transpired in the entertainment industry, as I had alluded at the beginning of the show, that we did have two high-profile, public figures that had passed on during the course of the week. Some you don't, maybe one of them you do know, or you know both of them, but yeah. I'll be back with those entertainment news